Holy shit. I have I have mixed feelings here. First off, yes, this is about the new episode of WandaVision, and I have to say, for the most part, really freaking good. It was a really damn solid episode to follow up the fourth episode, which left us with a lot of questions, and this episode did once again answer a lot of questions. Like any good show, it'll answer some questions and then give us some new ones, and this show pulls it off great, beautifully even, I guess. Whatever fucking word you want to use there, it does a great job doing that. My only gripe with this show right now was I don't know how I feel about that ending. The ending to episode 5 is just like what one, it did a good job giving me another question, and it's a question I'll talk about in the spoiler section of this video, but not right now in the non-spoiler. But that ending really did kind of it's what's giving me these mixed feelings. Like, all right, the ending of an episode will not tarnish the whole episode for me. But before that, the entire episode did just start building that mystery, did start building the whole like intrigue as to what's really going on in this world. Just how much power does Wanda have over this little TV land, and just how much who is Sword, like, and how far are they willing to go inside this world, or to stop Wanda, or like, well, whoever else is in charge of keeping this town completely shut off from the world. So that was great, and I really enjoyed that. And by the way, I guess if you didn't know Sword was a part of this show, then you've been living under a rock. But whatever. Now here you go. Sword is in the show. Before we moving on to the spoiler section, I'll just leave off with this. This show does keep getting better. It does kind of once you get past the first 3 episodes and you see what they were trying to do with the first 3 episodes, seeing the little hints every now and then, and for those commercials in between those 3 episodes, they were kind of important. I just don't know how literal, or how, like, what's a like what to take from those commercials, because it's like how much of those commercials on the first 3 episodes kind of lead up to what's happening now. Is that going to help us predict what's going to happen in the future, or what? Because it's kind of interesting, and this 5th episode just kind of helped prove the point that WandaVision is trying to be something different, and some the kind of, I don't know how deep of a dive they're gonna go to this, but if they go deep enough to start looking more like interpersonal on these characters, like from what I've seen so far in episode 5, like it looks like it's gonna do that pretty well, and I just like, this could be a very fascinating little show. Moving on to the spoiler section now, because honestly, there's not much else to talk about in the non spoilers here. So you've been warned. This is the spoiler section now. I'll put up a little something here for you to see it visually in the whole, while you're skipping past the timeline. We see Vision doubting this world much more than we've ever seen it before. Like, before, in the first 3 episodes, you saw occasionally very small, but you saw Vision every now and then crack. It's like, something's wrong here. But Wanda has always been able to reel him back in. In this episode, it went much further and much quicker than I thought it would. But given how many episodes this season is, it does make sense that they need to start planting those roots, those little cracks, much deeper now, so that they can get on with the story later on. So apart from Vision not actually doubting her and actually confronting Wanda about this, that tension between them was great. I mean, the whole them flying was still looked really silly, and I can't get past how silly that looked. So like, it looked silly, but I still got the emotion that they were trying to get. I was like, all right, cool. This is them kind of falling apart, and Wanda doesn't know how to fix it, and it's kind of losing some steam on this. I did like little whole Vision's whole little, like, whole like self doubt, like his he just flat out told her that he's scared of not knowing who he is and what has occurred in the past. What scenario situations led to him being where he is now, and why can't he remember those events? That was great. I think Paul Bettany, I think that's his name. He did a great job there. Apart from that, I would have to say the kids. I did not expect them to play such a pivotal role, because they did play a big role in casting those doubts much further in Vision, and I thought they were going to just kind of play that out with each new episode, like they would age then. But in this episode, they aged 3 times, from babies to kids to 10-year-olds. It was crazy. I actually thought like each episode would have them at a different age stage, and that's how they would go, kind of in the same line as they did with the first 3 episodes. But having all that consolidated in the 5th episode was really not what I expected. So, and that's really interesting. I really do want to know more about that. One thing I will say is that whole, like, I think I'm not really happy that Agnes, that one character that we're all questioning, like, what's her role in all this? Like, why is she not, like, why is her name missing in the whole people that they've discovered and all that? Because, like, everybody was making theories about that. But it shows you in the very first 3 minutes that she's actually still a kind of a part of that town, in a way where she is very scared of Wanda, but she's also playing the role that Wanda wants her. But she definitely has some more freedom than the other people, because the other people needed Vision to help them kind of be released from Wanda's control. Agnes, like, she seems to be roaming free on her own, so I don't know how much is she working with Wanda, that she has her own free will and is just kind of playing along with Wanda's whole little charade. It's charade. So moving on from the whole Wanda world, we'll move on to the real world, where I guess I saw some theories where people are suggesting maybe that's not the actual real world. But I think this episode kind of did cement that this is the real world. Wanda is keeping herself limited to this town, and she makes it very clear that, hey, maybe I can push this a lot further than it currently is, and if you push me, I'm gonna push back. And it shows how Sword is pretty trigger happy at the very least. At the very least, the president of Sword is very trigger happy. He either wants Wanda gone, or is pretty radical in how he wants to save those people. The other option is that he is actually somewhat involved in this whole WandaVision thing, and he wants to bury the evidence or whatever, because they do mention, by the way, that Wanda did in fact steal Vision's corpse, and and that Vision that we're seeing, it's the actual Vision, which is really which is crazy. Also, they did kind of explain Wanda's powers just a little bit, where she doesn't just create matter. All she can do is kind of morph it. Like, whatever matter there is, she can change its appearance and its mold, I guess, and just make it look the way she wants it. But she needs something to be there to mold. It can't just be out of thin air. So those kids, that's the question. Like, what are they? How did they come to be? Because they seem to have some sense of sentience. Like, they question Wanda in the very end of the episode, and they are able to, like, by unwill, just age themselves up, because we see that they went from babies to 4-year-olds, and I was like, that was weird enough, but that can be explained away by Wanda just kind of subconsciously wanting the babies to no longer be babies, so she no longer has to worry about them constantly crying. But then we see them go from 4-year-olds to 10-year-olds, and that is completely and utterly just them deciding to be that age so that they can get what they want. And I think that's more than likely, my theory here is that that's a manifestation of her subconscious, and that's what's controlling the kids. But I do believe those are perceptions. Like, that is completely, utterly like visual. Like there's nothing to those kids. They're kind of empty. And that'll be interesting. Before I end off this review, I will say this one last thing is that when Vision was confronting Wanda and they started floating up in the air, which still by the way thought that was silly, just had to say that one more time. When they started floating up in the air and they started yelling at each other, my my Xbox, the one I'm watching it through my Xbox because my TV isn't a smart TV, but so that out of the way. My Xbox actually turned off and it did the whole fritz that Wanda did whenever she doesn't want anybody to see what's in the program. So at first, when they started yelling at each other and they just turned black, I just thought, oh my god, Disney, that's fucking brilliant. Oh, I hate you and I love you. Good job there. And then my TV popped up. No signal. I'm like, oh, that's a bit out of character. And then I realized what it was. Like, oh, it's my Xbox. My Xbox turned off. So for a split second, I was thinking Disney was like a mastermind. I mean, whoever's directing this show, like, or this episode, like kudos to you. That was a perfect moment to have that just be gone. And I was like, oh my god, so many people are gonna be pissed. And I'm kind of mad because I wanted to see that fight, but at the same time, it just kind of shows Wanda how she doesn't want anything to disturb her world, not even Vision. But it was just my Xbox, so lowering those expectations just a wee little bit after that. Comment below what you think and how you think this is going to end up to be. I think I fall on the line where the theory is this doesn't end well for Wanda. But who knows? Maybe Wanda somehow gets off scot-free. I know the town is scared of her right now, but honestly, she hasn't hurt anybody, and she hasn't really... I don't know, it's deep-rooted trauma now. If you want to argue that, you can argue that, but there is a way for her to get out of this scot-free. And it wouldn't be too much of an ass pull. It would be an ass pull, but it wouldn't be that much of an ass pull compared to some things. That's just me. Comment below what do you think. And I'll see you next time you check in at the lobby. Peace.